Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are continuing our unit on fractions, and we talked about adding fractions yesterday with like denominators. Today we are talking about subtracting fractions with like denominators. Before we get into that though, let's do a quick review of what a fraction is. A fraction is an equal part of a whole. So it's when we take a whole number like the number 1, cut it up into smaller pieces or sections, or when we take an object like a pie or a pizza or a brownie pan and cut it into equal pieces. The key word is equal parts. All of them have to be equal. If they're not equal, then it's not truly a fair fraction. The next thing is a whole. A whole is the entire thing that's being cut up. So if we have the number 1 and we're cutting it up into smaller pieces, then that is our whole, the number 1. Or if we have a whole pizza, all 8 slices together in that pizza would be the whole. Next, we're talking about our 2 main words, which is numerator and denominator. Numerator is at the top of the fraction bar and denominator is at the bottom of the fraction bar. The way to remember this is numerator starts with the letter N, and so does the word north. And if you know anything about directions, you know that north is up. So north for numerator and down for denominator. So denominator and down both begin with the letter D, so we know that the denominator goes down below the fraction bar. So we have numerator, fraction bar, denominator. We also learned that sometimes our fraction bar can be sideways, and that's all right as well. The numerator comes first and the denominator comes second. It's just a different way to write a fraction. So let's talk about what a numerator is. The numerator at the top is just the part of the number that you have selected. So like the shaded in part, the part that's missing, whatever the problem says, that's going to be your numerator. Your denominator is always going to be the total. So we're reading this fraction as like 2 out of 8 or 2 eighths. So the denominator is the total number of how many pieces there are all together. So let's talk about our example of fractions, which is our watermelon. We've talked about this for so many days now. You have one whole watermelon. You can divide it into halves, or you can divide it into fourths. You could divide it into fifths. However many people you want to share your watermelon with, that's how many pieces you could cut it into. And however many pieces you cut it into is your bottom number. The thing to remember is that the more people you share it with, the smaller your pieces are getting. So the bigger your denominator gets, like right here, we see it in fourths, which is bigger than 2, but actually your pieces are a lot smaller because now you're dividing it into 4 pieces instead of 2 pieces. So if you want to make sure that you get the most, you want to share it with less people, okay? But if you want to be nice and share it with everybody, then you can, but everybody's going to get a much smaller slice, and that's okay. All right, let's talk about what a proper fraction is. A proper fraction is when it follows the rules and it has less on top than the bottom. All of these are examples of proper fractions because they follow the rules. The top number is smaller than the bottom number. Now, next week we're going to be talking about improper fractions, and they break the rules. I can't wait to talk about that, guys. It's so fun. But today we're talking about just proper fractions. Those are our normal fractions that follow the rules, meaning the top number, which is our numerator, is smaller than our denominator. So the part that we have selected is smaller than the total. We all have normal fractions that we have been looking at all week long. Those are all proper fractions, okay? Let's talk about how we read these fractions that are in front of our face right now. We have 1 in the numerator place and a 2 in the denominator place. Normally, we read the top number just like a normal number, and we read the bottom number as the grade level, like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. But when you see that 2 there, you know we don't say 1 second. That is not how you would read that fraction. The 2 there symbolizes half. So you would read that fraction as 1/2. Next, we have 2/3. We would read this as 2/3. Now is when we start saying the bottom number like a grade level. Next, we have 1/4, which would be read as 1/4. And then we have 7/8, which would be read as 7/8. All right, let's get into subtracting fractions with like denominators. Okay, so we are subtracting fractions that have the same denominator here, guys. And I want to show you this because it is very similar to adding fractions with the same denominator. So it is very important for you to know the rule of adding and subtracting fractions. The bottom number has to be the same for it to work. Luckily, in 3rd grade, all of the numbers on the bottom, all the denominators are always going to be the same. Next year in 4th grade, you're going to have to figure out how to subtract fractions that don't have the same bottom number. But guess what? For now, you don't have to worry about that. We're just going to focus on subtracting fractions that have the same denominator. That allows us to just keep the denominator the same and to focus on subtracting the numerator, which is our top number. Here we have 3/4 minus 1/4. And if you remember anything, you know that when you are subtracting, the big number comes first. So here my biggest fraction is 3/4. I have 3 sections shaded in, and I want to take away one shaded section. I want to unshade that section. So I like to imagine me erasing one of those shaded in sections because we are subtracting, we're taking away. So when I do that, 3 minus 1 is 2. So now our answer only has 2 shaded in sections. Notice that the denominator didn't change. It stayed 4 the whole time. Why is that? Because the fraction in and of itself isn't changing. We are keeping it divided into 4 parts every single time. The amount that is colored in is what's changing. So the bottom number is staying the same because we're not splitting up the fraction in a different way. We're splitting it up into 4ths every single time here. But the thing that's changing is how many sections are colored in. I'm starting out with 3 sections colored in. I'm taking away one of those colored sections, leaving us with only 2 sections that are colored in. And that is how we subtract fractions that have the same denominator. Okay, let's look at these fractions. First thing we need to do is identify what types of fractions these are. Sometimes you're only going to be given a picture. Good thing you know how to write a fraction. So this first fraction, let's look and see how much is colored in. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of the 5 pieces are colored in, so this is 5/5. The whole thing is covered in. So we're going to do 5/5 and make sure you write this as a fraction and not just the number 1. If you write this just as the number 1, you can't subtract it because you are subtracting fractions. Okay, so we're going to want to leave it written as a fraction. We're going to want to leave it as 5/5, take away or minus this fraction right here, which has 2 out of the 5 colored in. So it's going to be 2 on top, 5 in the denominator. So 5/5 minus 2/5. So we're starting out with 5. We're erasing 2 of these. So we're going to take away 2 of them. And that's going to just leave us, if we erase 2 of them, with just 3 pieces left. So our answer, or our difference, is going to be 3/5. We know that's true because 5 minus 2 is 3. And then our denominator just stays the same. We are not changing the denominator. You never change the denominator stays the same. And I know I've said it a million times, but it's because this is the one thing that 3rd graders love to forget. They love to just think, oh, we're just subtracting everything. No, we're not. We're only subtracting the top number because the bottom part of the fraction is just staying the same. We are not changing the actual picture. We're just erasing how many parts are colored in. Okay? So we're going to do one word problem together. We have Gina's family. They ordered a whole pizza and cut it into 8 pieces. Her brother ate 5/8 of the pizza. What fraction of the pizza is left? When you hear the word left, left means to subtract. We are trying to find how much is left. So this is what we need to think about. When you cut a pizza into 8 pieces, that's the whole pizza. Okay? When we are trying to write that as a fraction, that one whole pizza, and I know that it's cut into 8 pieces, I know that there are 8 out of 8 pieces that need to be eaten. None of them have been eaten yet. So we're starting out with our fraction as 8/8. Even though 8/8 is not in this word problem, I know it's 8/8 because the whole pizza cut into 8 pieces gives me that answer, that it is 8 out of the 8 pieces. So 8/8 minus what her brother ate, which is 5/8. And we're going to rewrite this fraction like this, so then we can subtract our numerators across the top. So how much is left? So we started out with the whole pizza, which is 8/8, and we are taking away the 5 pieces that her brother ate. So 8 minus 5 leaves us with 3 pieces left, and there is 3 out of the 8 pieces left together. So we started out with 8 eighths, 8 out of the 8 pieces, minus 5 eighths because her brother ate 5 out of the 8 pieces. How much is left? 3 out of the 8 pieces of pizza. So that is how you subtract fractions with the same denominator on the bottom. It's the same thing as when you add the fractions together with the same number on the bottom, except now we are just subtracting or taking away. So when you go and do your assessment this week, just make sure you remember 2 things. First of all, look at the sign. Make sure that it is adding or subtracting. Make sure you do the right operation. And second, remember, the denominator stays the same. The only thing changing is the numerator. Super easy, but if you forget that, then you're going to get the whole problem wrong, okay? So remember, the bottom number stays the same. Good luck, guys, and let me know if you need any help. Bye.